doesn't feel like how it used to, but still I tell myself it is. To us, wishing I could give you a reason, but it won't make a difference. Wishing I could solve all the pieces, but I don't know how. Cause I still miss you when you're out, when we're laying on the couch. In the morning there's no doubt, but at times I forget our moments, staying up all night, laughing till we lose our minds. And I'm caught in every problem, and at times I forget our moments.
What's up, everyone? I'm ready for our daily dose. Daily dose of a Big B in the house, in the Heezy. Let's get into it. Daily dose of Big B up in the Heezy. B in the Heezy. Oh, he's coming. Oh, he coming. All right, a little clap. Wow.
Good morning.
Just drinking some afternoon cup of tea.
Over
Absolutely
the course of my
lovely.
career, I have seen gun violence up close. I've looked at autopsy photographs. I've
Why?
seen with my own two
Just
eyes
for funsies?
what a bullet can do to the human body. I've held hands with the hands of parents who have lost a child. I have seen children who were traumatized by the loss of a parent or sibling. And I have fought my entire career to end this violence and to pass reasonable gun safety laws. Time and again, as progress has stalled,
Don't you love that?
We've all
Reasonable
asked.
gun safety.
what are we waiting for?
Who's the reasoning?
Because we aren't
for?
waiting for a tragedy, I know that. We've had more tragedy than we can bear. We aren't waiting for solutions either, because the solutions exist. They already exist. People on both sides of the aisle want action. Real people on both sides of the aisle want action. So all that is left
What?
is the will
She just
and the
said
courage
real people want
to
action.
act.
So those who don't, you're not even real. Am I even real?
And President Joe Biden has the will and the courage to act. As a United States Senator, Joe Biden took on the gun lobby not once but twice, and he won. In 1993, he worked to pass the Brady Handgun Violation Prevention Act. This law established a background check system and has kept more than 3 million firearms out of the hands of dangerous people. A year later, he worked to pass another law to ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines for 10 years. And as vice president, Joe Biden led the Obama-Biden administration's efforts to reduce gun violence. In fact, we were just reminiscing that he and I talked back then
About
his
Chicago
work
and all the
because I was
deaths every
Attorney General
weekend?
at the
You guys
time
are
of
talking about all those
California.
illegal guns?
And his work resulted in nearly 24 actions, from narrowing the gun show loophole to expanding funding for mental health services.
You gotta get those private
And as
sellers
you will
out
hear
of
in a
here.
moment, President Joe Biden is a leader with great will, great determination.
He will be prosecuting
and
his
even
son
greater
tomorrow.
He has seen the grief of all of those who have lost a loved one to gun violence. It is
Joe, start
for
with your
them,
son first. Put him
for
in
all of
prison
us,
forever for lying
that
on
he
that
will never,
background check.
Ever
And
give
then we'll
up
know
on this
the real
fight.
leader you
And it is
are.
now my great honor to introduce the President of the United States, Joe Biden.
What if for a second she's like the president? This clapping is so weird. There's like this clapping in between. It's like so weird.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Pablo.
You know, we're joined today by the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, who I've asked to prioritize gun violence. It's also good to see the second gentleman who is here. And
John Travolta.
It's good to see the First Lady, Dr.
Good to see
Jill
you, man.
Biden, who cares deeply about this issue as well. And I look out there and I see so many members of Congress who've led in this fight. So many of you who've never given up. So many of you are
Name 'em.
Absolutely determined, as Murphy and others are, to get this done. We got a long way to go. It seems like we always have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But also today we're taking steps to confront not just the gun crisis, but what is actually a public health crisis. Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. There are phony arguments suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake from what we're talking about.
That's right.
But no
These
amendment,
aren't Second Amendment
no amendment
talks.
to the Constitution
Shut your
is
mouth
absolute.
and listen. High capacity magazines is
You
not
can't
a
yell
Second
fire in
Amendment
a crowded
issue.
Movie theater. It's
You
called
get
freedom
it.
of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. From the very beginning, the
You could
Second
have
Amendment existed.
your
certain
own
people
ship
weren't allowed
with
to have
cannons
weapons.
on it.
So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the
No,
Constitution.
You just need to know
Gun
history better.
violence in this country is an
More well.
epidemic. Let me say it again.
Say it again.
Gun violence in this country is an epidemic, and it's an international embarrassment. You know, we saw it again last night as I was coming to the Oval Office. I got the word that in South Carolina, a physician with his wife, two grandchildren,
Really sad
and a
story.
person working at his house was gunned down, all five. So many of the people sitting here today
Notice.
know that well.
He mentioned that murder in
know,
South Carolina, but didn't
know
mention
what it's
race.
like.
I wonder why.
when the seconds change your life forever. I've had the pleasure of getting to meet in awful circumstances many of you who've lost your children, your husbands, your wives. You know, they know what it's like to bury a piece of their soul deep in the earth. We understand that. Mark and Jackie, I want to tell you, it's always good to see you, but not under these circumstances. I want to say before I introduce the rest of the folks,
What was that in the background?
is you know what
Somebody
a lot of
throwing
people
things?
have not been through, what they've been through, don't understand. It takes a lot of courage to come to an event like this.
What?
They're absolutely determined to make change. But
What
Mark
courage?
And Jackie, whose
You have the media
son
that backs
Daniel
you
was a first
and major
grader in Sandy Hook
corporations.
Elementary School. Or Daniel
That's not
loves
courage.
sports, loves outdoor sports, getting muddy. I see my friend Fred Gutenberg. His daughter Jamie was a
Das
freshman at
Gutenberg.
Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. She was an accomplished dancer. I see Brandon Wolf, who was the shooting at the Impulse at the Pulse Club nightclub.
The
He
Pulse.
survived, but
It's really
his two
sad.
best friends died. Greg Jackson, who was just walking down the street when he was caught in the crossfire of a gunfight. And of course, I see a close friend of Jill's and mine, Congresswoman Gabby Gifford, who is here, who was speaking with her constituents in front of a grocery store in her state when she was shot and a member of her staff was killed. You know, they're here, and their pain is immense. And you know, what a lot of you, hopefully many of you, don't know is you've gone through a trauma. No matter how much you work to make sure others don't go through it, every time you show up at an event like this, it brings back when you got that phone call. It brings back the immediacy of what happened at that moment. So I genuinely mean it. Thank you. Thank you for having the courage. the courage to be here, the courage to continue this fight.
Okay, that's a legit
Senator
argument.
Blumenthal understands it. A lot
There's
of the
courage
folks out
in
here
that.
understand it. But it takes real
If I
courage.
could be
so
honest.
thank you. To turn pain into purpose and demand that we take the action that gives meaning to the word enough. Enough, enough, enough. Because what they want you to know,
Enough's
what
enough.
they want you to do is not just listen. Every day in this country, 316 people are shot every single day. 106 of them die every day. Our flag
So?
was still flying
mean,
at half staff.
I mean, that
for
really
the
is
victims
sad,
of the
but
horrific murder.
people
of
die all
8
kinds of different ways.
primarily Asian American people
What
in
does this
Georgia.
have to do with your bill you're
when
signing?
10 more lives were taken in a mass murder in Colorado. You probably didn't hear it, but between those two incidents, less than 1 week apart, there were more than 850 additional shootings.
Yeah, all in Chicago.
850 that took the lives of more than 250 people
Illegal
and
guns.
left 500 injured. This is an epidemic, for God's sake, and it has to stop.
Yes,
So
all
I'm here
those
to
gun
talk
deaths
about
he
two
just
things.
quoted definitely involve
First,
illegal
The
guns.
steps we're going to take
You can't-
immediately. And second,
You think gun
the action
background
that needs
checks
to
will
be
stop
taken
an
going
illegal
forward
firearm
to
being
curb the
sold?
epidemic of gun violence. I asked the Attorney General and his team to identify for me immediate, concrete actions I could take now without having to go through the Congress. And today I'm announcing several initial steps my administration is taking to curb this epidemic of gun violence. Much more need be done, but the first, want to rein in the proliferation of so-called ghost guns. These are guns that are homemade, built from a kit.
Like they
and
used
include
to.
directions on how to finish the firearm. You can go buy the kit.
Disgusting.
They have no serial numbers, so when they show up at a crime scene, they can't be traced. And the buyers aren't required to pass a background check to buy the kit, to make the gun.
That's legal.
Consequently, anyone from a criminal to a terrorist can buy this kit in as little as 30 minutes, put together a weapon. You know, I want to see these kits treated as firearms under the Gun Control Act, which is going to require that the seller and manufacturers make the key parts with serial numbers and run background checks on the buyers when they walk in to buy that package. The second action we're going to take, back in the year 2000, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms released a report on its investigations of firearms trafficking in America.
The government hates 3D printers so much that this is their way in to regulate 3D printers, because the idea that you can 3D print a lower receiver for an AR-15 is like catastrophic in their eyes. They can't handle it. And you're not allowed to sell these things anyways, necessarily, but are that maybe you are. I can't remember. I don't remember the laws. I'll have to relook at that.
The report was a pivotal value. It was an important tool for policymakers when I was in the Senate and beyond, at all levels, to stop firearms from being illegally diverted into dangerous hands. Today, with online sales and ghost guns, times and trafficking methods have changed, and we have to adjust. We also have to ask the Justice Department to release.
I think it's just that the government hates 3D printers and ghost guns so much because they can't watch what you're doing, and they have no means in order to take away your firearms if you are on a list of something. They hate the idea of you being in control of your own life. Just that's what the root issue is that they hate the idea of you controlling your own life and you creating your own means to protect yourself. And because they want to be in charge of that so that they have all the power, they hate that you can overpower them. They don't like that idea. So any means to take away that idea is why they hate ghost guns.
A new annual report. This report will better help policymakers address firearms trafficking as it is today not what it was yesterday.
What up, Sky
The
Ridge?
third change, we want to treat pistols modified with stabilizing braces with the seriousness they deserve. A stabilizing brace shook in a pencil essentially makes that pistol a hell of a lot more accurate and a mini rifle.
Joe Biden wants to do away with pistols that look like AR-15s because they look like weapons of war.
As a result, it's more lethal, effectively turning it into a short-barreled rifle. That's what the alleged shooter in Boulder appears to have done. I want to be clear that these modifications to firearms that make them more lethal should be subject to the National Firearms Act. The National Firearms Act requires that a potential owner pay $200 fee and submit their name and other identifying information to the Justice Department. Just
Why?
as they would if they went out and purchased a silencer for a gun. Fourthly, during my campaign for president, I wanted to make it easier for states to adopt extreme risk protection order laws. They're also called red flag laws, which everybody in this lawn knows, but many people listening do not know. These laws allow a police or family member to petition a court in their jurisdiction and say, I want you to temporarily remove from the following people any firearm they may possess because they're a danger and a crisis. They're presenting a danger to themselves and to others.
What if
And
everyone's
the court
lying?
makes a ruling. To put this in perspective, more than half of all suicides, for example, involve the use of a firearm.
Yes.
But when a gun's not available, an attempt at suicide, the death rate drops precipitously. States that have red flag laws have seen the reduction in the number.
Okay. The idea that if you just ban guns, people are going to kill themselves less is so stupid. People that are so ready to die and ready to commit suicide will do whatever means necessary to do it. That doesn't... I get that there's easier ways and stuff like that. People swallow pills. People, hang themselves. Like, there are terrible ways to commit suicide, and there are much easier ones than a firearm. To say that, like, if you just get rid of the firearms, people are going to kill themselves less. That might happen, but the people that are going to do it are going to do it anyways. You should attack the subject at the foundation and not take away the tools. You attack the subject by providing more mental health care services or encouraging people to go seek out counseling, not to take away the tool. You'll still have mental health issues.
Of suicides in their states. Every single month, by the way, an average of 53 women are shot and killed by an intimate partner. I wrote the Violence Against Women Act. It's been a constant struggle to keep it moving. We know red flag laws can have significant effect in protecting women from domestic violence. And we know red flag laws can stop mass shooters before they can act out their violent plans. I'm proud, excuse the point of personal privilege we used to say in the Senate, I'm proud that the red flag law in my home state of Delaware was named after my son, Attorney General Beau Biden, our son, excuse me, Joe, who proposed that legislation back in 2013. I want to see a national red flag law and legislation to incentivize states to enact their own red flag laws. Today, I asked the Justice Department to publish a model red flag legislation so states can start crafting their own laws right now. Just like with background checks, the vast majority of the Americans support these extreme risk protection order laws.
There are already background
checks. It's time to put these laws on the books and protect even more people.
The idea that there's
the
not
Attorney
background
General
checks is
will
a
have more to say
lie.
about this in a moment. Additionally, we recognize that cities across the country are experiencing historic spikes in homicides, as the law enforcement can tell you. The violence is hitting black and brown communities the hardest.
Why do you think that,
Homicide
Joe? Defund the
is
police,
the leading
maybe?
cause of death of black boys and men ages 15 to 34.
With probably
The
illegal
leading
firearms.
cause of death.
How are you going to stop the illegal firearms, Joe?
But there are proven strategies. that reduce gun violence in urban communities. And there are programs that have demonstrated they can reduce homicides by up to 60% in urban communities. But many of these have been badly underfunded or not funded at all of late. Gun violence in America, for those of you who think of this from an economic standpoint listening to me, estimated to cost the nation $280 billion, let me say it again, $280 billion a year. You say, how could that be, Joe?
Yeah.
Hospital bills, physical therapy, trauma counseling,
How could that
legal
be, Joe?
fees, prison costs,
Prison costs.
and the loss of productivity. Not to mention the psychological damage done to the children who live in these cities, watching this happen, knowing someone it happened to.
Yeah, maybe you should
There's gun violence in their neighborhood.
get more
It's having
police.
profound impact.
You know, Joe's really going after guns right now as the reason there's crimes instead of what maybe is the reason there's crimes. It's always like take away the tool, not the actual foundation in which why crime occurs. And can we all just say hashtag defund the police movement? Maybe that encouraged criminals? Nah. Or all these criminals that are getting off on all these easy charges because they're backed by a political party? No. Let's get rid of the guns, though. That's the real issue. God.
On our children, even if they're never involved in pulling the trigger or being the victim of on the other side of a trigger. For a fraction of the cost of
Just
gun
drinking
violence,
a lovely
we can
yerba
save
mate
lives,
tea.
create safe and healthy communities, and build economies that work for all of us,
All of us.
and save billions of American dollars. In the meantime, much of it, as Senator Cicilline knows, is
Uh-oh.
taxpayer money. Finally, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms,
Whoa,
key agency
Akabal.
enforcing gun laws, hasn't had a permanent director since 2015. Today, I'm proud to nominate David Chipman to serve as the director of the AFT. David knows the AFT well. He served there for 25 years. And Vice President Harris and I believe he's the right person at this moment
To take
for
away
this
your
important
guns.
agency. And I've said before, my job, the job of any president, is to protect the American people. Whether Congress acts or not, I'm going to use all the resources at my disposal as president to keep the American people safe from gun violence. But there's much more that Congress can do to help that effort. And they can do it right now. They've offered plenty of thoughts and prayers, members of Congress, but they passed not a single new federal law to reduce gun violence. Enough prayers. Time for some action. I believe the Senate should immediately pass 3 House-passed bills to close loopholes that allow gun purchasers to bypass the background checks.
He just tapped his
The
head.
vast majority of the American people, including gun owners, believe there should be background checks
There is background
before
checks.
you purchase a gun. As was noted earlier, hundreds of thousands of people have been denied guns because of the background checks. What more would have happened?
Like your
These
son.
bills, one, require background checks for anyone purchasing a gun at a gun show or an online sale.
Okay. Joe Biden said online sale background checks. If you purchase a firearm online, you have to send that firearm to a licensed FFL dealer, which I have done multiple times. And then when you get there, the gun gets there, then you go there and you have to fill out a form, aka a background check that takes anywhere from an hour to 5 days to get passed. And then you can pick up your gun. There are already background checks for online sales. That's a lie. Okay.
Most people don't know it. You walk into a store and you buy a gun, you have a background check. But you go to a gun show, you can buy whatever you want and no background check.
That's not necessarily true.
Second thing is to close what's known as the Charleston loophole.
Private
Like
dealers.
people here, I spent time down at that
Not
church
FFL.
in Charleston. What happened is someone was allowed to get the gun used to kill those innocent people at the church service. If the FBI didn't complete the background check within 3 days, there's a process. If it wasn't done in 3 days, according to the Charleston loophole, you get to buy the gun.
What does
They
that
bought
say
the
about
gun and
government?
killed a hell of a lot of innocent people who invited him to pray with them. And 3, reauthorize the Violence Against Women Act, which the so-called close the boyfriend and stalking loopholes to keep guns out of the hands of people found by a court to be an abuser and continuing threat. I held over 1,000 hours of hearings to pass the Violence Against Women Act. And one thing came through. If, in fact, a stay-away order, an order preventing the abuser from coming in a certain distance of the person he has abused or she has abused. And now, the idea that they can own a weapon when they have a court order saying they are an abuser, these are some of the best tools we have right now to prevent gun violence and save lives. But all these bills
Oh, fire! Fire!
had
Fire!
support of both Democrats and Republicans in the
We're
House.
okay. We're okay, people.
Universal background checks are supported by the vast majority of the American people. And I might add, the vast majority of responsible gun owners. So let me be clear. This is not a partisan issue among the American people. This is a view by the American people as an American issue. And I'm willing to work with anyone to get these done. And it's long past time that we act. Now, I know this has been a hobby horse of mine for a long time. Got it done once. We should also ban assault weapons and high-capacity magazines in this country. For that 10 years we had it done, the number of mass shootings actually went down.
Correlation
Even
equals
law enforcement
causation.
officials have told me and told other champions of this legislation. They
Hey, Joe
sometimes feel
Biden, does
outgunned
correlation equal
by assault
causation?
weapons with large capacity magazines. There's no reason someone needs a weapon of war with 100 rounds, 100 bullets.
Weapon of war, may your hammer be mighty.
That can be fired from that weapon.
From that weapon.
Nobody needs that. Nobody needs that.
That's right. Nobody needs an AR-15. Nobody needs rifles. Nobody. That's his argument. Nobody needs it, period. Oh, what about hogs on your ranch? Nah. Oh, what about a government that's trying? No, shut your mouth.
We got that done when I was a United States Senator. It wasn't easy going up against the gun lobby, but it saved lives. And we should also eliminate gun manufacturers from the immunity they receive from the Congress. You realize, again, the people here, because they're so knowledgeable on here in the Rose Garden, but what most people don't realize, the only industry in America, a billion-dollar industry, that can't be sued, has exempt from being sued, are gun manufacturers. Imagine how different it would be had that same exemption been available to tobacco companies who knew and lied about the danger.
Joe, come
They're
back to the
causing the
microphone.
cancer caused
You're
in
starting to
life.
fall. You're going away.
Imagine where we'd be.
Come back to the
This is the
microphone.
only outfit
Okay, baby.
that is exempt from being sued.
Use that finger. Point. You point
If I
well.
get one thing on my list, the Lord came down and said, Joe, you get one of these, Give me that one. Because I tell you what,
Tell me.
there would be a come to the Lord moment these folks would have real quickly.
What?
But they're not. They're not. They're exempt.
Come to the Lord moment.
I know that
mean
the
come to
conversation
Jesus?
about guns in this country can be a difficult one. But even here, there's much more common ground than anyone would believe. There's much more common ground. Everything that's being proposed today is totally consistent with the Second Amendment. And there's a wide
No, it's
consensus
not.
behind the need to take action. I know that when overwhelming majorities of Americans want to see something change that will affect their lives, and it still doesn't change, it can be demoralizing to our fellow citizens. It can feel like our entire political process is broken. I know it's painful and frustrating that we haven't made the progress that we'd hoped for. But it took 5 years to get Brady Bill passed, and it took even more years to work to pass the assault weapons ban. And it saved lives. No matter how long it takes, we're going to get these passed. We're not going to give up.
Joe, what's an
We have
assault
an opportunity
weapon?
to fulfill the
Tell
first
me.
responsibility of government,
Tell
to
me.
keep our people safe. And in the process, we can show the world and show ourselves that democracy works, that we can come together and get big things done. When I look around and see such brave survivors sitting out here in the Rose Garden, public servants who devoted their lives to dealing with this, advocates who feel strongly and are pushing every day to make the rational changes, and courageous parents
Can
and
we
family
stop
members.
calling politicians
I
public
know the
servants?
progress, even in this most
You get
difficult of
paid
issues
way
is
too much to be called a servant.
So, folks, this is just the start. We got a lot of work to do, but I know almost every one of you sitting in the garden here. None of you ever given up. We're not going to give up now. The idea that we have so many people dying every single day from gun violence in America is a blemish on our character as a nation. Let me say to all of you, God bless you, but most importantly, the memory of all many of you have lost to the senseless gun violence. And now I'd like to hand it over to the Attorney General.
All right, let's get into this. So the video was an emotional ploy, emotional push to get more gun control measures down. That's all this video was. He used references of people dying, and basically the train of thought is this. People are dying, and if you aren't for gun control measures, then you love murder. That's it. That's the train of thought there. And wow. You can't argue against that. Okay? Because you're for murder then. That's how it goes. Good luck, people. Have a fantastic day. I appreciate you for watching.